For me, when it's 5, 4, 3, 2, and you're live, millions of people are watching, your heart is pounding, I know now I've prepared for this moment. And as much as I'm nervous and like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, there's a part of me that's like, there's no other place I'd rather be.
So I really wanted to dive into your why behind this, how you got here, and your experience as a former athlete working in sports today. Did you always dream of working in sports once you were done with your athletic career? Like, what did you dream of doing professionally after softball?
The irony is no. I went to Stanford University, and a big reason why was because I wanted to have a degree and go to a school where my next phase wasn't really sports focused. And as much as I love sports and knew I'd always be active somehow, my plan was actually to go there, and I got my master's degree in social sciences and education because my plan was to move to DC, work on educational reform. I really wanted to get involved with politics. It drove me to go to a great school to get my master's degree, honestly, get the experience that I got within education. I ended up making the Olympic team, which I didn't expect. And 12 years later, I was still on the national team. So the irony is I still have these degrees that I was like, I had this internship in DC, had this whole plan. And really sports came to me. I was playing a World Cup game on ESPN, and they interviewed me, and after the interview, they were just, hey, have you ever thought about getting involved in television? And I actually laughed. I was like, open mic, like what comes out of it? Like, I'll get fired first day. There's no way. Like, I don't know what to do. And I had no background, but I decided to give it a shot. And here we are.
I guess you kind of touched on it, but talk a little bit more about your journey to getting to ESPN.
So it started with that conversation. I kind of laughed, and then there was a real follow-up call about 5 months later. And you got to understand at this point, and what we've seen this year with the Women's College World Series and record-breaking numbers, and we see the popularity of the sport. At this point, it was just on that turning point where there were only a few games covered a year. The Women's College World Series itself only covered a few games. If you can imagine, they didn't even cover the entire Women's College World Series. But all of a sudden they were saying, wait, people are interested in this. We need to start covering. And so they needed more analysts. So they reached out to me and said, hey, would you want to audition? And, I really contemplated it, Alexis, because I didn't have the background, and I'm a very studious person. And I was like, how do you prepare for this? And I had a friend that was like, you know what, you just put yourself out there. And you might find out that you were the worst and should never do this again, but that's why it's an audition and everyone finds that out together. But the upside's kind of cool. So I flew to Charlotte, and Beth Mowins, who's now the voice of softball, flew in as well and sat next to me. And we did actually Northwestern Arizona championship game. That was a replay, obviously. We sat in a studio, and there was no like advice given. It was just like, what would you say? What would you do? And the headset was on, and Alexis, within 5 minutes, I found out like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And thank goodness, they felt the same way as far as, hey, we'll hire you. And I was doing my first Women's College World Series that year. And that was, 16 years ago. And that's transitioned into some college football, and obviously now Major League Baseball, college baseball. And it's been an amazing ride.
So how do you see sports differently now that you are working in it and aren't the one competing?
That's a great question. I think I see it more through the human aspect. And obviously when I was competing, I saw humans, but like you're really, and at least for me, just so like narrow-minded with like, okay, I need to be able to hit the outside drop. These are my mechanics. This is the technique. It was just so like mechanic, physical focused. Obviously you talked about the mentality of the game, but I've noticed being on the other side, there's so many incredible people that play the sport. And my goal is to get more people to watch all the sports that I'm covering. And I feel like the best way to do that, and almost using the Olympic mold, being an Olympic athlete, I feel like the best thing about the Olympics is the stories. And yes, then of course you're watching them compete, and it's so cool. But most people aren't going to know that when I'm up to bat and I'm trying to get my hands to reach to this certain pitch that's on the outside part of the plate and hit it, like that's like 5% of people watching that are interested. So I've really noticed to dive into who this person is, where are they from, what's their background, what got them to this point, and now when they step in the batter's box. Now, when it's their moment, there's more of a base of people that can relate to them that maybe can't hit or can't play the game, but they also understand that this is someone that's very similar to me.
You've broken a lot of barriers being the first woman in the booth for a number of MLB broadcasts. What advice do you have for women aspiring to work in sports and be successful like you have?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice is staying true to who you are. I think a lot of times, and this is for everyone, not just women, but you tend to see a certain mold, or you got to look a certain way, act a certain way. And I think for a long time, that was the case for women, especially in sports media. You felt like there was this pressure to be and look a certain way. I feel like that's changed a ton. And the more that you can really stay true to your strengths, what your interests are, because my personal feeling is you want to be able to relate to more women. And we're seeing more and more women want to watch sports. In fact, it's passing a lot of sports where more women than men are watching. And I think a lot of that has to do with the, like for you, Alexis, like the things that you're interested in, what you want to cover, like go towards those and don't just always look at the blueprint of this is how it's always been done. I think the more we can get diversity on all aspects and bringing that diversity out in ourselves instead of, okay, we have to follow these same steps that have always been followed, rather than actually your own interests. And a lot of things I know that you're doing, it's like, hey, I want to put my stamp on this, which will really bring in just a bigger audience.
At the core, after talking about these things, what is your why for continuing to work in sports?
That's a good question. There's times I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this still? I think it really comes down to a real love for all kinds of different things. The challenge that it is, I mean, it's never the same. There's always that, how can we do things differently? There's also, the fact that it's not easy. I really like the fact that it's hard. And as much as it's a dream job, and I think people from the outside are like, that's so cool that you get to do this, it's really not easy. And I crave that. I mean, there's a part of me that likes the challenge that sports bring. And, this last year is a perfect example, is how can we be creative when we can't be on site? I did a Yankee game last night and trying to do things in a different way when, we're not on the field, we're not in the booth, and being able to still bring interest to these broadcasts. It's fun. And it's something that I think the moment that it gets easy, or the moment that it gets where it's like, oh, this is just the same thing every time, I won't be interested. And I don't think that'll ever happen. I definitely like to challenge myself. And I think the sports world easily does that.
Yeah, no, this is kind of off my tangent, but I can completely relate with everything you're saying. Like playing 6 years in the NCAA, there was times where I was like, I am under a constant pressure, for 6 straight years, even in the off season, to be the best and be at my best. And I'm always in my head would be like, oh man, when I'm done, I'm just gonna lay on a bed and be peaceful and not have stress. And now I have found myself wanting it more. So I just put this kind of pressure on myself. Yeah. And I really 100% can relate to that. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. I've listened to you talk 10 years ago, and I relate to everything you're saying. You're just awesome. So this was so cool for me to do. So I really appreciate it.
Well, you're well on your way too. And I'm pumped, literally the fact that you're fresh off of a softball season and competing at the highest level. And you've seen it all too. So I'm welcome to this side. You're going to enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.